This was inevitable. We mentioned Joe Biden in that last break, but the Democrat candidate today outlined a $2 trillion climate plan. Now, this initiative calls for charting the United States on an irreversible path to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And, of course, he's appealing to the renewable energy evangelists. Just what the US economy needs now, another $2 trillion cost.
Yeah.
So everyone can then pay more for power and everything else becomes more expensive.
This is a try-on by the Democrats to say that Trump's going to run a law and order campaign. We've seen that all the Democratic states where they've been anti-police, where they've been saying defund them, get rid of them and really laying into them, the people are going to say, we're over this. We're seeing no law and order here. He's going to run that campaign. The police have come out today saying we support Trump because he supported us and continually. So they've gone out here and said, oh, well, look, we'll bring back the climate change argument. They might even bring over the little Miss Greta to make a speech for
They probably will as well.
And she can say, how dare you? And Biden can say, how dare you? But it is insanity. I mean, what was shown was, very simply, that when Trump came in and said, I'm out of Paris, I'm here to make the United States absolutely independent of the Middle East for our power needs, that's when the jobs started to surge. So this is insane.
Yeah, I think we've got a sum of Joe Biden from overnight. Here's Joe Biden.
There's no more consequential challenge that we must meet in the next decade than the onrushing climate crisis. Left unchecked, it is literally an existential threat to the health of our planet and to our very survival. That's not up for dispute, Mr. President. When Donald Trump thinks about climate change, the only word he can muster is hoax. When I think about climate change, the word I think of is jobs.
Campbell Newman, he looked very slick there because the auto cue was on both sides of his shoulders.
Yeah, look, firstly, they're playing, obviously to their base and I guess a youth vote. But you know what? I think this is an actually big opportunity for Trump to do what we'll talk about what Bronwyn was just saying, which is that his initiatives over the last 4 years up to COVID led to this incredible job creation and the return of industry in the United States because of low energy prices, getting rid of the lots of red and green tape, and the jobs did come back. And if you can actually get a coherent message out saying that's why that happened up to COVID, and this sort of initiative, so-called initiative from Biden, will take us backwards and backwards at a great rate of knots, and drive those jobs away again to places like Mexico, to places like Thailand and Vietnam and India and the like. I think that can be done. So. I just see it as a typical crazy left-wing thing. It's worthy of the Labor Party in Australia, really.
And
sort of thing that dial up,
And Matt Canavan, the argument has changed, as Campbell says, ever since COVID came on. You cannot go to an election in any country in the next year or 2 years and start saying, I've got a great idea, how about we spend $2 trillion on saving the planet? I think the shine has come off that argument given what we've just been through, hasn't it?
Absolutely, Chris. The pollsters I've spoken to have clearly indicated that since the pandemic began, issues like climate change have plummeted in people's concerns and minds, as you'd expect. I'm not applying to be Trump's new campaign manager, but I agree with Campbell. He'd be smart to just zero in on this democratic policy for two reasons. One, the ones Bronwyn mentioned about, particularly in swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Texas now. Texas is not as right-wing as it used to be. Those states would be smashed by net zero emissions because effectively what Biden is saying is we're going to end the shale gas revolution. That would be all gone. That's what's driven the US economy and manufacturing jobs in the last decade. The other reason is, you see Joe Biden's rhetoric there. This is the greatest challenge of the next decade. If the US did sign up and put all of its attention into net zero emissions, what you were doing is pretty much putting the white flag up to China. Because I tell you what, China's not going to be signing up to net zero emissions pledge anytime soon.
And nor are they going to
you're
be
in
pushed by
effect,
the UN to do so.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that is the big issue, I think, for the US and our region that Trump should zero in on, that he has stood up to the Chinese Communist Party and he can be trusted to continue to put America first. And that's what we should be doing here in this country, as we discussed earlier.